Tanya Unkovich joins me now in the studio, an executive coach, an author, a speaker. You've got a diploma in counselling. You've got a certificate in personal training. I don't know when you find the time to eat breakfast, but you're a very busy person. Today we're going to talk about overcoming adversity and living a life of fulfillment. Now, we can all buy books and watch self-help stuff on how to do that, but it's probably hard to do. You've had some adversity in your life, haven't you?
I sure have. And that is actually what enables me to help other people, because I can empathise with the journey. So yes, my journeys of adversity started when I was in my 30s, well, actually a little bit earlier than that, but I certainly had to learn how to work through adversity and find meaning and purpose in life again. That's for sure.
Yeah, we all have a story to tell, don't we?
Yes.
And sometimes it becomes a bit competitive or combative. You know, someone tells their story, so you tell yours. Is someone's adversity worse or better than someone else's? Because in my head, it's just as traumatic as what you may have been through. But we do judge each other's situations quite differently, don't we?
Yes, and I say that it's a bit like a fingerprint. It's all different for all of us, and we all deal with it differently. We all make different meanings out of it, and we all have a different process of getting through it. It's a time to not judge, actually. Don't judge yourself on how fast or how slow you're doing it. Just take it a day at a time and as it comes.
Yeah. One of the worst things I was told going through my little midlife crisis was, it's time you moved on. Time you got on with it. What do you say when people say that? What did you say in your situation?
Look, at times I wanted to give people a left hook, but you just have to breathe and go, this is my journey. Just keep having that certainty in yourself that no matter what you're going through in the day, it is your process. And some days when I was going through my stuff, I felt I was going crazy, and I just allowed myself to feel that. Because the more you try and run from it, the worse it's going to be. Ultimately, it will catch up with you, won't it?
Yeah. Are you happy to talk about what it was that you went through?
Sure thing. Where would you like me to start?
Well, you tell the story.
Well, look, truthfully, it was in my 30s when I was unable to have children. My husband and I were really struggling, and for 8 years we tried to have our own children, and that didn't happen. And it was a daily grief. It was a weekly grief. It was really a horrible thing to go through. And it was actually the thing that made me go and study to be a therapist, because I wanted to find meaning in my life again. I grew up wanting to be a mother so desperately that when it didn't happen, I was really tipped over. I couldn't imagine that this was what was going to happen to me. And I made the decision that I was going to somehow still find meaning in life and find joy in life. And if the beautiful thing happened, then great. Now, at 40, I actually sort of said to myself at 40, well, if I'm not pregnant by the time I'm 40, I'm just going to get on with life, right? Something magical might happen and there might be a little miracle. But when I was 40, Phil, my husband at the time, was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, no.
And look, the interesting thing was when he was diagnosed, the first few days of the diagnosis, the first few weeks were probably the worst. But there was a sort of acceptance for me when it came to the whole issue around being a mum. I sort of parked that and understood, okay, this is maybe why. This was actually what I had to deal with really in life. And so, look, at 40, that was when my life, he passed away 5 months later. He had a very tragic cancer, one you wouldn't want. And so that was when my next journey, the next phase of my adversity began.
So you've got the benefit of hindsight. How would you have dealt with things differently? Knowing what you know now with your professional skills, would it be any different?
Look, I tell you what, the thing I would have probably done differently is followed my intuition more when it came to later on dating again, actually. That's the one area I wish I did differently, was trusted my instinct and given myself a bit of time. That's the only other thing. But everything else I kind of looked on myself as my own patient, you might say, if that's the word to use, or client. And I observed the way Tanya grieved. And that was, in hindsight, having that diploma in counselling, even though I did it for another reason, was really amazing to have that while I was grieving Phil. And I just allowed myself to be, actually. And allowed, I think that's the best word. I allowed myself to be and and luckily I came to a point of acceptance very quickly after he passed away. I just knew, and I made the decision that I wasn't going to let this define me for the rest of my life. I'd do something with it and help others through the same process, but I would not let it define me as something that I was going to suffer with. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
The grieving process, does it ever really stop?
It's different. It changes. And, I often call them tsunamis, those tsunamis of grief. They were hard and fast and very regular, and then over time they spread out and they weren't as hard, and it didn't take me as long to kind of bob up and get my head above water. And then eventually you start feeling joy again and you start allowing joy. So it's different. Look, I had a moment the other day and I'm able to go, isn't that interesting? But the beautiful thing is often my moments now are moments of joy, because one of the things, and I've shared this openly before, when Phil was passing away, he said to me that he would always be my angel. And I'm always getting examples of that. So that's, the grief is beautiful, but it's there's joy attached to it as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, you've done amazingly well. Tell me about, in your professional capacity, you being able to say what you've been through. Do you do that, or do you keep that quite private when you're talking with someone?
No, I'm very open. I've written about it. And when I first wrote my book, someone said to me, gee, I've just read your books. How does it now feel knowing you've spilled your guts to the world? And it's fine, because I know that is how I help people. And people love it. It normalises their grief in a way. So look, I'm an open book, and I'm happy about that.
I'm a bit of an open book as well, much to my mother's disgust. But look, when I talk about what I've been through and someone says, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about, my immediate thought is, no, you don't.
No, I know.
This is my story. This is my grief.
Yeah.
So how do you channel that? How do you make that in a professional capacity? How do you help someone? It's not, you might relate your story. Does that help them open up more? Or do they go, oh, we're not talking about you, we're talking about me?
Well, I'm always very careful to make sure that that's the other person that's talking, right? And in my professional capacity, what always goes through my mind is, you don't judge anything. There's no judgment. There's no judgment. There's no judgment. We've all got our story. We've all got our own needs and how we want them met. And we just have to allow each other to be.
How easy is it to live a life of fulfillment when you have been whacked across the head with something massive like what you've been through or I've been through? Everyone's got a story. How do you get back to living a happy life?
You make the decision that you want to. That's the first thing. Once you've made that decision, then you have to also allow yourself to do it. And then you just start taking action. This is what you need to do, and keep doing things that will lead you towards what you want in your life. Yeah.
And a time frame? I know that's going to be an answer. I could tell you the answer to that. It may never happen, but you can aim for it, right?
You sure can. You absolutely can. And even if 10, like for me, it's 15 years next year, you just allow whatever happens and hold whatever feeling comes up. Don't run from it. This is life. We're all going to have to face the stuff at some point, some form of adversity. We cannot escape it. So just welcome it when it comes, the feelings I mean, and just embrace them.
Wonderful. I need to come and spend about 4 days on your black couch, I can tell you now. Tanya Unkovich, how do people get in touch with you?
Just go to my website, tanyaunkovich.com, or Google me.
Nice. Always lovely to catch up with you. Thank you so much for coming in on the
You're
Sunday
welcome.
Cafe.